acknowledge that May is Mental Health Month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and therefore I wanted to take a moment to discuss the ABCs of mental health. And so, therefore, we're going to start this. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try to do one a day for the next 26 days. We'll see what happens. I'm going to make the attempt to do this. So, the first letter is A of the alphabet, and therefore I am going to say that A is for attachment. So there are a lot of theories about attachment. I often say, especially to people with relationship communication issues, it might not be your communication that's the problem. It might be an attachment issue. So A is for attachment. So we want to first start by discussing what is attachment styles, right? What type of attachment styles are they? And so the healthiest model is called secure attachment. The person that has a secure attachment, they are comfortable with closeness, but they're also comfortable with space. They trust others, they trust themselves, and they can say, I'm hurt without attacking another person. They can receive love, and there's not like that fear component that we'll see in some of the other attachment styles. While they're not perfect, it's not like the person who has secure attachment is without flaw. This is kind of the healthy version of attachment. In faith, these are the type of people that are secure in their attachment to God, even when God might be silent, even when God might not be speaking. They're still safe. They're still secure. Good evening, homebody Trish. Okay. So we are talking about the ABCs of mental health. The first one is A is for attachment. So we're talking about attachment and attachment styles. So the second one that I want to discuss, we have the secure, which is the goal. That's the aspirational goal for everybody to have secure attachment. But there are others. So there's also anxious attachment. And anxious attachment is rooted in inconsistency, right? So people have anxious attachment when they have inconsistent love, affection, affirmation, often rooted in childhood. So maybe love felt unpredictable growing up. So now the nervous system is it kind of panics, so like freaks out whenever somebody they feel they love pulls away. So they're kind of like constantly on the edge of that attachment. These are the type of people that will go over the top with apologizing. They texting all the time. They might feel worthless or question themselves if there's a breakup or if somebody asks for space. And spiritually, this can show up as trying to earn God's affection or love, right? In other words, the inconsistency trains the person to kind of hustle, earn, work for affection. Good afternoon. I'm sorry, it's not afternoon, it's nighttime. Good evening, Damo. Yes, I said it right because I watched an interview and I was like, am I saying this young man's name wrong all the time? No, I said it right, Damo. So yes, so the second attachment style is anxious attachment. And again, you can think about this like when you're anxious, you're kind of like antsy. You feel insecure, you feel a little shaky. So that's anxious attachment style. So the next one we would have is another A. It's avoidant attachment, okay? And these are the people that hurry and scurry away from closeness, right? These are strong, independent types. I don't want nobody, don't need nobody, who often had to self-soothe early on. So as opposed to someone who's anxious felt like they had to earn love because it was inconsistent, the person who has an avoidant attachment style tends to say, okay, I'm not going to get love, so I have to self-soothe. I have to figure this out on my own, and therefore I will be internal with all of my processing, right? So for these people in their adult years, closeness often feels overwhelming, and so they'll pull back a little bit when anytime it gets too intimate, it gets too close, it's too much vulnerability and transparency because they're fear that they're going to get hurt. And sometimes they're not cold, like they might seem like, oh, standoffish and cold, but it's really not coldness, it's more self-protective. Emotionally, they learned if I don't expect anything, if I don't need anything from anybody, I won't get hurt. I won't be disappointed. And even with God, they may struggle to feel safe and vulnerable because they don't want to feel needy. They don't want to reach their hand out and then get a smack back. So it's like, no, I'm going to be self-sufficient. I'm going to be self-reliant. I'm going to have self-efficacy, and I don't need anybody else. So that's avoidant attachment, right? Okay, and then we have disorganized attachment. And this one is a little bit variant because it's a combination. It's a combination of anxious and avoidant. And so it's often linked to trauma or abuse. It's the type of person that says, I want love, but I also want to feel safe. So they might chase around someone, and the moment they get close, they pull back, right? They might have deep fear that someone will leave them, even in relatively good relationships. They might self-sabotage relationships. And these are generally, it looks very scattered and inconsistent, right? These are the people that you get into relationship with, you like the relationship, and then they just ghost you. You're like, what in the world? Right? And then 2 weeks later, they back because it's very disorganized attachment. Okay. And so the good news is that attachment is not your identity, it's your starting point. So now that we've gotten the definitions out of the way, hi, id. Okay. Now that we have the definitions out of the way, I want to just go through some talking points. I'm not going to say really quickly because we got time. We got time tonight, but I'm going to go through this pretty fast. Number one, your attachment style isn't a personality flaw. It's a survival strategy that was shaped by your early childhood experiences. So oftentimes people will discover that they have these attachment styles and then have a negative view of them. But once you understand the pattern of behavior, what you're doing, right, then you understand that you can choose to heal it. So the first step of any healing journey, any healing process, is to realize that you are doing something. So if you're someone who has an anxious attachment style, sometimes getting to the place where you are secure in yourself is the first step to being able to heal that process. Number two, God designed us for secure love, but trauma and inconsistency can distort how we receive and give love. So understand that healing requires unlearning fear-based, scarcity-based patterns and relearning what safety feels like in a relationship. A lot of times, okay, a lot of times we will get into these relationships and we will externalize. We will make everything the other person's fault, everything the other person's issue, and we will not take any responsibility, right? I'll talk about me. I know early on in relationships, I'll be like, it's them. It's them. Not being able to take a step back and say, how has my early childhood, how has my upbringing, how has my experiences, how have the things that I walked through influenced this current pattern, right? I'll say that I am the type of person that has I'm somewhere in the middle, right? I'm somewhere in the middle, and sometimes I've had disorganized because I'm like, oh, love me, love me, love me. But then if you don't love me, then I feel rejected. Now we stonewalling, right? So I've had to learn that, okay, just because somebody needs space, that doesn't mean it's a rejection. And just because they need time to process doesn't mean they're rejecting me. And being okay with allowing people to have their process. Number three, anxious attachment often stems from emotional inconsistency where love had to be earned, not trusted, right? People do not like when I say this, but love is not to be earned. Love is a decision. It is cultivated. It is grown. It is crafted. It's curated, but it's not earned. Because if you have earned love and expectations, that can be problematic, right? That can be an issue, and that can be problematic. So the I decide to love, and then we build a relationship. Because if love is earned, then it's always going to be based on your behavior, and that will require people to be perfect in a relationship. Okay? All right. Somebody, Ed had a question. I'm probably saying that name wrong. I apologize. You can ask your question now. Be nice in my chat. Don't ask nothing wild. Okay? I'm going to give y'all a second so I can see if this question pop up. I'm going to keep going. If I see the question, I'll stop and answer it. Okay, so avoidant attachment says, if I never need anyone, I'll never get hurt. And sometimes we have propagated, okay, sometimes we have propagated the idea that if, how can I say it? It's okay, it's better to be independent, it's better to not need anyone, it's better to be self-sufficient, it's better to just be okay with being by yourself. Okay, and that is not wrong to be independent, but if you're using it, like if you're weaponizing it in efforts not to be attached to anyone, not to connect to anyone, that's not healthy. God created us to be social, emotional beings, right? We are required to be in a situation like it's not healthy. The Bible says it was not good for man to be alone, right? And that wasn't just males, that was everybody, humanity. Adam is the first representation of humanity. It is not good for man to be alone. So when we are priding ourselves on this independence, that's not always good. Again, we're not talking about career, we're not talking about grind from the muscle, we're talking about having relationships with people. Okay. Yeah, okay, so let me pause and see what Trish said. Put the expectations on self. I know that's right. That is true. That is very true. So understand that if I never need, they'll say things like, if I never need anyone, I'll never get hurt. Understand that you being single, solitary, isolated all the time is hurting you as well. Because most of us will long for interdependence, connections, okay? Even the most introverted of introverts needs connection, right? Needs connection. What do you do, Trish? I see I do that. What do you do? Put your expectations on yourself, or was it something else? I'm over here dancing because the delay, the delay does something to me, but it's okay. I had to get some soft jazz music. Please get Anthony make me something so I can play it in the background. If it pops up, I'll answer. Okay. Put expectations on self to avoid disappointment. Yes, and I understand too that there is a balance to that, because I think it is responsible to put the expectations on oneself, right? To say, okay, the only person I can control in this dyad, in this relationship, um yes, I'm gonna try to do that, right? In this relationship, in this dyad, would be to put the expectations on myself, which is good to a certain degree. If I am putting the expectations on myself, but I am not allowing the other person to play their part, that can be problematic, because then I'm walking around alone and isolated because I don't trust anybody to be able to handle the reciprocity in a relationship. So I think that that is finding the balance between being responsible for my own feelings and behaviors, and then also allowing the other person to have reciprocity, allowing them to be able to walk together. So let me see. Okay, I only read the question in my head first because I want to make sure it's straight, because you said you had issues with English. So it says, is it truly possible for a person to fully heal from deep psychological trauma, or its recovery merely learning to live more consciously with pain? I think that two things can be true at the same time. When you talk about recovery, recovery is the act of living through and past any deep-seated psychological trauma. So yes, you can heal from psychological trauma. That healing is going to look different for everybody. For some people, that is going to be almost like I have been fully restored. It's almost like that trauma didn't happen. It doesn't affect my everyday life. And for other people, it is, I don't break down every time I'm reminded of the trauma. That is going to look different at different stages of one's life, at different processes of one's life, and from different people. So I would answer that question is both of those things are on a continuum, and it depends on the person as to whether it's going to look like A version or B version. It is absolutely possible to live through a traumatic event. I would not do what I do if that wasn't the case. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, and I'm going to scroll up a little bit because I've seen some folks come in. That was absolutely a great question. I don't put trust in men, but like Trish said, I put expectations on myself as well, okay? Hey, Trisha. Good question. Do you think doing that works well for you? Okay, I'm going to get back to that. Hey, Kendi K. Hey, Trish down. Okay, she's speaking to everybody. Thank you so much. I think it becomes overwhelming at times. Can you believe I'm up this late? I don't know what time it is for you, Kendi K. It's 10 o'clock around these parts. I don't know what time it is for you. But I want to go back to that question. It is and I kind of answered this already, but I want to say it again. It's finding a balance, because we cannot ever control everybody else. We can only control our side of the street. I think that's very important to acknowledge that. At the same time, because I can't control everyone else, I also can't take the responsibility for everything either. Because if we're going to be in relationship, we need to be in relationship. There needs to be some part, because here's what I'll say. The other side is, if I am the one taking all the responsibility for the relationship on myself, the other person feels like they don't have a part to play. So while I think that you guys are absolutely right, I have to be responsible for my side of the street, I also can't control the whole town, if that makes sense. And being in relationship requires some vulnerability. It requires some giving and taking. I always say, in order to be in relationship, you have to get close enough that the person might, that you could possibly get hurt. I can get close enough to the person that I could possibly get hurt. And that is the difficulty with people that have very independent natures. They build up so many walls. It's like, I will not get hurt because I have all of these layers. And they also never feel completely close in a relationship. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so going back. Number 5, disorganized attachment comes from deep relational trauma where love and harm were intertwined. So a lot of times this disorganized attachment is bred in early childhood where there was neglect or abuse happening. And so we don't see that all the time, but it is a response. It's like, hey, I don't know how to act. I don't know how to love, because I didn't know if I was going to get the good hand or the cold hand, right? And so I think that is something to acknowledge, that there might be some trauma that needs to be unpacked, needs to be processed, so that we can have healthy attachment. One of the words I said earlier was relearning how to interact with people so that we can have healthy relationships. Okay, it says, if our sense of self is shaped by our past trauma, then in healing those wounds, do we risk losing parts of who we are? That is a very thoughtful, meaningful question. I will say it like this. In June, right, at least where I live, it will be very hot in June, right? So the parka that I wore in January was functional. It worked. It kept me safe. It kept me warm, right? It kept me alive. It allowed me to be able to go outside safely because it was 32 degrees at that time. If I take that same parka, right, and move it through to June, it's no longer functional. And so to answer your question, sometimes we will mature out of some things that worked well for us in a previous season. So I don't want to say you're going to lose a part of yourself, right? You would lose a maladaptive behavior. You might lose a negative way of thinking. You might lose some of the things that kept you safe in one season, but is now hindering you in another. Because if we see somebody in a North Face parka in June in a hot place, we would say that's no longer functional for them. Okay, so I don't want to imply that you are going to lose parts of yourself. What I would say is you would mature or put down the things that no longer serve you in this current season. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. I learned about what'd you learn about in college, Trisha? Hey everyone, hey T's. Homebody trip perfect understanding. Okay, wow, great analogy. Okay. So number 6, securely attached people aren't perfect. They're just emotionally regulated and relationally safe. So again, like I said earlier, the goal is to have secure attachment, right? So I can feel safe enough to open my hands a little bit in my relationships. I don't feel like I gotta hold on. I don't have to know where you are every moment of the day. I don't have to be stalking you. I don't have to be in your Instagram and I don't have to do that. I don't have to do the hovering. I'll be like, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? I don't have to do that. And I also don't have to be like, I don't need you. I really don't need you. You can be over there. I'll be over here. It is finding a balance. Okay, attachment styles. Okay, Trisha. Finding a balance in between so that I can feel safe and secure. And again, these people are not perfect. And oftentimes, if you know that you have a certain attachment style, you adjust. Okay, you adjust to get. Hi, Nisha Antoinette. You adjust so that you can have healthy relationships, healthy communication. I want to say also here, this is not just for romantic relationships. This shows up in how we parent our children, how we relate to our sisters, brothers, how we relate in ministry. Attachment styles can permeate. It is how we attach. It is how we relate. So if you adhere to these principles and guidelines, understanding how you attach can help you in any relationship. Okay. Again, A is for attachment. All right. So, again, for my people of faith, the Holy Spirit can guide emotional healing, but God often uses safe people and therapy as part of the process. One of the things that I run into a lot as a therapist is people will misname, right? They will misname. Oh, thank you so much. They will misname certain things. So, like I said earlier, they will come into my office and say, I have difficulty communicating. Sometimes you don't have difficulty communicating. You are saying things all the time. You have difficulty relating. You have difficulty attaching. You have difficulty finding safety and security in the relationships that you have, which in turn ends up looking like a communication issue. So these are things, while I think you can learn on your own, good therapeutic intervention can help. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. I know because I've had therapy. Somebody asked me that before. They were like, do therapists need therapists? Absolutely. Absolutely we do. Now, a lot of us had therapy before we became therapists, and we continue to have it as a way to help ourselves, as a way to make sure that we are processing this information in a good way. So we're not carrying all this stuff with us, okay? Nisha, I'm so glad that you're here. And thank you for saying I'm gorgeous. I haven't heard that in a while, so thank you so much. I've been told that. What have you been told before, Tease? What have you been told before? Yeah, I'm gonna get that smooth jazz so I can hear it in the background. Yes, it's gonna be a vibe in here. So again, I'm gonna say this really quickly. I only have 2 more points left. I want to just say that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I'm not going to say try, because if Coach was in here, she would yell at me for saying try. I am going to purpose in my heart to do the ABCs of attachment. The first letter of the alphabet is A, and so A is for attachment. So what did I say? The ABCs of mental health. I think I said that wrong. The ABCs of mental health. The first one is attachment. So that is what we're talking about. Oh, about your communication skills. Okay. All right. All right, so number 9, scripture offers a picture of secure love, okay? And I say this often to myself. I remind myself that the word says, I will never leave you or forsake you. And again, this is for my people of faith, those who believe in the Bible, right? I will never leave you or forsake you. And so if I know that no matter what, I am loved and honored by God, that helps me process all of the other information, right? That consistent, present, non abandoning, non forsaking. God is not going to throw me away, throw me aside, cast me aside. There is no rejection there. That is the foundation for rewiring the way that I look at relationships, because I don't need to earn any human's love. I would like to partner with them, love them, give them love, but it's not required for them to be perfect in their love, because I already have perfect love that will not leave me or forsake me, okay? Okay. So, the other thing too, I'll say this, look at your relationship with God and then look at your relationship with people, because that can give you if you're the type of person that's inconsistent in your relationship with God, see if that's the same pattern with people, right? But understand that your spiritual growth does not have to wait until you understand all of this other attachment stuff. I always say start with God first, and then you will get shown the way with people, okay? Number 10 is my last point. Attachment healing takes time, but it's worth the work, because safe love builds healthy legacy. One of the things that I have used oftentimes in therapeutic intervention, especially with people who are parents, I'm gonna get to you. I'm gonna get to you. I'm gonna keep your question. I'm gonna get to you. Um, One of the things that I use for therapeutic intervention, especially with parents, for people who struggle with seeing patterns of behavior, I will ask them to see themselves like, or give the advice to their children. Why? Because legacy is important. So if I say, hey, what would you tell your daughter if she came to you with this issue, problem, or concern? Because if I can get you to see how this is problematic in your children, then it is helpful so that you can process it on your own. And um, I don't know if that helps anybody, but that is one of the things that I figured out first in relationship to my children, is I'm like, they pick up things that we never actually teach them. It's stuff that we thought we dealt with, and it'll show up in your kids. So if nothing else will help you get into a therapeutic environment or help you start to isolate some of these patterns, it will be if you are a parent, or if you have a parent and you are trying to help those relationships, okay? It is worth the work. If I can break a generational curse in my line by fixing something, I have done my job, okay? Hey, Crystal. All right. So the question that Eid had, I think it's Eid. It might be Eid. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Do I have any small tips to improve your English? One of the things that I will tell you is um doing things like this, being on, having people listen to your English, type in English, it can be very helpful. And I use Duolingo to help me with my Spanish. I can actually read Spanish quite well, but I do not speak it very good. So that is one of the things that I will give you. As anybody who's learning another language, I am not sponsored by Duolingo. I would love to be, but it helps me and it's fun. I also used to do Rosetta Stone. But good evening, Crystal. Good evening, Nisha Antoinette, Antoinette. I watch your vlog, so I know I said that wrong the first time. And thank you, everybody who jumped in. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, issues, tissues, I have all my little talking points. I did it. So again, secure attachment is where we want to be. Anxious attachment is when we have some anxiety about our love and our peace and being in relationship. Avoidant attachment is when I just want to run. I do not like being in relationships. I've in order to feel safe, I gotta, close myself off. Disorganized is a little bit of the two. Okay. Amen. That's awesome. Thank you for that information, Nisha Antoinette. That's a good information. Okay. Okay. Secure attachment. Okay. And so, oh, I didn't say secure attachment. Secure attachment is where we want to be. Thank you, Candy K, all day. I love it. Okay, and the last thing that I'll say is this. Thank you guys so much for hopping on the live. If you want to know more about attachment styles, there is a playlist on my channel. So if there's something you want to learn about, there's also a relationship series about attachment on my channel. It's also in a playlist. So that is something that could give you more information. That is something that can give you more insight, and it's very detailed and linear. My little talking was a little all over the place, but if you want more information, you could definitely look there. Thank you guys for joining. I will see you guys hopefully on the next video, the next live. Thank you, Serene in the making. I feel like sometimes people come in and I don't know they hear. Thank you, Serene in the making. If you was in the background, I appreciate you. You guys have a blessed night. I pray you rest well. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye. Oh, wait. It was a question. Oh, I'm being newsy. Trish said it seems like, okay. Yes. Okay, we were all giving congratulations and information to Ed. So I appreciate you guys. Have an amazing night, guys. Bye.